Chief White House correspondent has some breaking news tonight. Hello, Ed.
That's right. A source familiar with the president's decision tells me that he has chosen Loretta Lynch, a federal prosecutor, to be nominated to be his next attorney general. She's highly regarded as a prosecutor. Her name has been out there as a finalist for several days. Significant bit of history, if confirmed by the Senate, that she would be the first African-American woman to ever serve as attorney general, a chief law enforcement officer in the land. Of course, she would replace Eric Holder. He's had a very controversial tenure, announced several weeks ago that he's planning to step down. But this ties in, obviously, to the lunch that the president had here today at the White House, where it was meeting with Democratic and Republican leaders. There's a whole new balance of power here that could make it difficult for the president to get any nominee for any cabinet post, senior post through. But they tried to work out a lot of issues. There was some cordiality there, but we're also told there was some tension over immigration.
Leaders emerged from the lunch with White House goodie bags, suggesting at least some bipartisanship. And beyond the swag, top Republicans later suggested their first face-to-face since Mitch McConnell became the presumptive Senate Majority Leader got the conversation going.
We shouldn't miss this moment to actually move America forward, focus on jobs, and I think the American public expect us to do that.
Yet the body language at the meeting itself looked less kumbaya and more like a scene from a waiting room at the dentist's office, with the awkwardness between President Obama and outgoing Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, who was sitting next to but distant from the commander-in-chief, particularly glaring after Democrats had previously traded barbs about who lost the election.
Obviously, Republicans had a good night, and I've congratulated both Mitch McConnell as well as Speaker Boehner for running very strong campaigns.
As he talked of cooperation, however, aides said the president was bulling ahead on executive action on immigration reform, which could give several million illegal immigrants work permits to stay in America.
No one ran for office this year campaigning to say the president ought to do more executive orders, and specifically on immigration.
White House aides say the president has no choice but to act on his own, since Speaker John Boehner declared he has no plans to take up immigration legislation, though they struggle to explain how the message from the Democratic drubbing is that the American people are hungry for more unilateral action.
Can you name, is there one TV ad out there, is there one candidate who said, I want to see more executive action?
Well, Ed, most of the people who were running these television ads were running for Congress. And so it's not a surprise to me that these television ads focused on legislation that they support.
The tension between the president and Reid comes from the senator's chief of staff, David Crone, saying this week the White House was to blame. Crone telling the Washington Post, quote, the president's approval rating is barely 40%. What else more is there to say? He wasn't going to play well in North Carolina or Iowa or New Hampshire. I'm sorry. It doesn't mean that the message was bad, but sometimes the messenger isn't good. While House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi is still coming to grips with what happened.
I don't consider it a wave. I think it's an ebbing of Democratic voters rather than a wave of Republican voters, because I don't think the American people gave anybody a great big seal of approval.
Now, sources familiar with this meeting tell us there was a tense back and forth at one point between the speaker and the president about immigration, and the president pressing forward with these executive orders. That may explain these gift bags. We're told there was no Kentucky bourbon in there, but there was some White House beer that's brewed around here, maybe to make sure there's no hard feelings.
Maybe a beer summit in the making. Ed, I want to go back to the breaking news, and that is the announcement that the nominee for Attorney General for the White House is going to be Loretta Lynch, federal prosecutor, U.S. Attorney of the Eastern District of New York, Brooklyn. There you see her there. She was appointed by President Obama, also served in that role from President Clinton. Why the decision on this late Friday before the president leaves on this trip to Asia?
Interesting, because I had been told by senior officials the president wanted to do this after the week-long trip to Asia. That would have been about a week and a half from now by the time he got back. A highly partisan environment in some ways. He wants to get going on it, but also word was leaking out. They feel inside the White House that beyond the history-making it would be if she's confirmed as the first African-American woman to be Attorney General, is that she's already been confirmed by the Senate twice before to be a U.S. attorney by acclamation. So they believe inside the White House that this is going to be a strong pick. There's going to be some controversy because she's a close advisor, she has been for some time, to Eric Holder. And as you know, he's been a polarizing figure on the Hill. But Republicans might feel there'll be other battles instead of this one, Brett.
Okay, Ed, thank you very much.